Thoroughly outclassed by the worst team in the league. The Cleveland Browns fired head coach Freddie Kitchens. Of course, you know about the massive hype that turned into mediocrity, a 6-10 record. I mentioned this before the break. The next coach, there's a couple interims in here, will be the 12th the Browns have had since returning to the NFL just 20 years ago. They've struggled on both sides of the ball. They struggle to hold on to the ball. And next year is going to be a big-time prove-it year for Baker Mayfield. Our Jeremy Fowler reported on this story last night. He's back with the very latest tonight here on SportsCenter. I know you were in the locker room. What's the reaction from the players on the dismissal of Freddie Kitchens?
Well, Zubin, the Browns have been through this dance so many times. They just want something that's solid, something that will last. I spoke with guard Joel Bitonio. He told me, look, I've had 5 head coaches, going on 5, in nearly 7 years. So we want somebody who will come in here, be the face of the franchise for years to come, command the locker room, and pull us all in the right direction. Now, when it comes to teammate Jarvis Landry, he sees things a little bit differently. He said, we have a talented offense, but we missed far too many opportunities.
Just opportunities in games where, you know, I know on the outside that we could have taken advantage of, you know, teams, you know, weaknesses, you know, and that we didn't, and you know, we just didn't really know what the plan was or what we were trying to do, or I don't think we ever really found our identity. And this may have been the most talent that we've had in one room, that you've seen in one room for this amount of time, and you still have more time, you know, and you don't want to lose that. You know, you want to take advantage of it when you have it.
Now, the Browns are eager to get on to 2020. Landry referenced his excitement working out with Baker Mayfield and buddy Odell Beckham this offseason. But then Landry mentioned he's got a hip injury that could require surgery that would keep him out 6 to 8 months. And so this offense simply can't get off the ground. But that's partly why the Browns are interviewing mostly offensive-minded candidates. They know they have to get Baker Mayfield right first priority.
No question about it. We should mention Landry has never missed a game in his NFL career, so that injury news is interesting. Jeremy, thanks. Michael?
Well, Zubin, those expectations in Cleveland were high, but they're also pretty much universal. Most people thought with Baker Mayfield, Landry, Beckham, Chubb, they would do better, but you saw what happened. 10th overall pick, though, coming up in the draft, $50 million in cap space projected, and maybe one area of concern, pass protection. Baker Mayfield sacked 40 times this past season. All right, Adam Schefter back with us here on SportsCenter. Freddie Kitchens out after one season in Cleveland. Where do the Browns look to lead in terms of getting someone to bring in and bring out the most of that talent?
Well, Michael, we've had this conversation many times in regards to the Cleveland Browns, and they cast a wide net today. They reached out to the 49ers for permission to interview their defensive coordinator, Robert Saleh. They reached out to the Baltimore Ravens, division rival, to get permission to interview Greg Roman. They reached out to the Patriots to interview Josh McDaniels, who interviewed for that job 2 years ago. You take a look at some of the people that they could have interest in. Mike McCarthy's worked with the people there in the front office who were in Green Bay. Now, last year, they passed up the chance to interview McCarthy. This year, they might not do the same. This year, they are likely to follow up and actually interview him. So there are a number of candidates that they're looking at. But again, we've been through this so many times with the Cleveland Browns. They seemingly pick the right guy and see it go astray. So something's got to change, and you'd like to think that this team will make the right decision this time.
Well, you mentioned Josh McDaniels as one of the candidates for that job in Cleveland. Earlier today, he was asked about his future.
And I'm not even aware of any of that stuff at this point. So when that stuff is presented to me or discussed with me or whatever, then we'll deal with it appropriately. But honestly, it's pretty easy for me in terms of my formula. I'm the offensive coordinator of the Patriots. We have a lot of work to do. We can improve in a lot of areas to try to get ready for this week, our biggest game of the year against certainly the best team we've played since a postseason game. So our players deserve that, our coaches deserve that, and that's what they're going to get from me.
So Josh Shannon has been a head coach in the league. It didn't work out. He was going to be the Colts head coach, spurned them sort of last minute. What's the feeling around the league, Adam, in terms of McDaniels getting another head coaching opportunity?
That he's going to get one. And we see the evidence today, the fact that the Giants have put in for him, the Panthers have put in for him, the Browns have put in for him. So 3 teams that have openings. One of the first coaches that they reached out to was Josh McDaniels. And I know that people say, whoa, well, it didn't work out in Denver, and then he turned on the Colts.
Right.
It doesn't change the fact he's still one of the top offensive minds and one of the top young assistants in the league, and he's going to get a head coaching job. So I don't understand why people have a hard time with this, but they do, because you're not the first person to express skepticism.
Well, I mean, the history suggests you could take a second look. Like, why would you give an opportunity based on his previous stops, right? Or stop and a half, I guess. Stop and not even.
There are many coaches that get second chances, and again, he still is, I think, one of the top young assistants in the game. When you talk to people around the league, that's what they believe.
Without question, right?
And so he's got the experience, and you could look at any number of head coaches in the NFL who do much better on their second go-round as a head coach than the first, which is one of the reasons that Chris Ballard, the Indianapolis Colts general manager, wanted to hire Josh McDaniels until he changed his mind.
Yeah, sort of like Bill Belichick, New York, or anywhere else for that matter, opening up the possibility that retirement may also be a viable option for the 16-year vet.
I'm going to think about it, and I'm going to, just dwell on it and talk to my family and just, figure out what's best for me and us and what I want to do going forward.
I know you didn't enjoy being a backup, but if the Giants wanted you to come back in that role, would you consider it?
I doubt it. So, backing up's not real fun. I felt like I was kind of a coach this year. I didn't enjoy it that much. And so, it's, I guess that's, I kind of take it back. I am coaching my third grade basketball team. My daughter. I'm the assistant, but I take it pretty serious, and I'm enjoying that. So I'll consider some coaching jobs.
All right, so Tim Hasselbeck joins us now. All right, so Eli doesn't want to be a backup in New York. He doesn't want to be a coach pretty much anywhere outside for one of his kids. What type of market do you see for Eli in the league right now as a starter?
I don't think it's going to be a very big one. I think there might be a shot that there's a spot here or there. And in those spots, going in as the unquestioned starter, it might be in a situation where, they eventually draft somebody and he finds himself in a situation not too different from the situation that he's in right now. Remember, Kurt Warner was brought into New York, to be the starter when Eli Manning was drafted. I just think that's where Eli is at this point in his career.
And if he doesn't find the situation he wants, again, retirement is also an option for him after 16 years in the league. Now, his career will always be tied to that of Philip Rivers because they swapped teams back in that draft in 2004 that Tim mentioned. Rivers' future with the Chargers also, though, up in the air right now. He was emotional after yesterday's loss to the Chiefs. Check this out.
I can say I gave it everything I had. I mean, every week, so, and maybe it means an interception on 4th and 18 when you're down 10, because I don't care that it's going to say 2 interceptions. I really don't. It's just like I ain't quitting. So I think that doing it with so many guys over 14 years, and going to the locker room, win or lose, and I can say, dadgummit, we're short. We fell short. Or we won, but shoot, I couldn't try it any harder.
Now, it's easy to look at that and sort of jump to a conclusion that he feels as if that he's played his last game with the Chargers, but that's not exactly what he said there. So let me ask you this question. What do you think is best for Philip Rivers going forward, as well as the Chargers organization?
I actually think a change of scenery would be good for Philip.
Okay.
And so just listening to him talk, seeing the raw emotion there, he's not done playing football in his mind. He wants to still compete. And I think that there's going to be somebody that sees that out of a guy that's had his career and his success and say, you know what? We could use that around some of our younger players that think they've arrived.
A bit of NFL history was made on Sunday, but not one that anyone would quite frankly want to make. Jameis Winston became the first player in NFL history to throw 30 passing touchdowns and 30 interceptions in the same season. Listen to what Jameis said yesterday after the game, and then what Bucs head coach Bruce Arians said today.
Do you worry that these turnovers will be a reason why they don't bring you back here?
That's the last thing on my mind. I'm focused on how I can get better, because I know I eliminate those, I'm gonna be the best. So that's bar none. You better check your sheet. I eliminate those, I'm gonna be the best.
In this team, is it good enough to win with another quarterback?
With another quarterback? Oh yeah. We can win with this one. We can definitely win with another one too.
All right, Bruce Arians, always one to be candid, to say the least. But how do you see the chances that the Bucs actually bring back Jameis Winston? Because he is a free agent coming up.
He is. the question ends up being, are you just better off with Jameis? Like, can you do what Jameis is saying? Like, coach him out of some of those mistakes.
Right.
Look, it wouldn't be my choice, but it may be their best choice.
If you quick count half of those interceptions, 30 and 15, you got a pretty good season.
And listen, if you added a bunch of touchdowns to mine, then
woulda, shoulda, coulda.
What could have happened? What could have happened?
Tim, appreciate the time.
Yeah.
Man. All right.
And I thought Eli was going to say the funniest thing in this segment. All right, so the Jets may be unsettled at a lot of positions. Quarterback isn't one of them, unlike the Jameis situation there. Le'Veon Bell, first year, up and down. Jets had a 1-7 first half, played better the rest of the way, undeniably. Coach Adam Gase asked today this question about Bell in his season-ending press conference.
Do you want him back as your starting running back in 2020?
He's under contract for 3 more years. You can ask Joe tomorrow.
Do you want him back?
You can ask Joe tomorrow. I'm not the personnel. I'm not in charge of personnel.
If you couldn't hear that, the reporter asked twice, do you plan on bringing him back? In fairness to Gase, he later said he talked to Bell about how they can use him better next season. By the way, Joe there's the team's general manager, Joe Douglas, the NFL's best insider, is back. So Gase kind of laid out how many years he's got left on his contract, but what are really some of the options moving forward here?
Listen, they could go to restructure the contract, but keep in mind that before the trade deadline, Zubin, they were open to moving on from him and trading him. So if you're Adam Gase and you're stepping to that press conference, the best thing to say is Le'Veon Bell was a soldier this year. Very talented running back. Loved having him on a roster. And we'll see what the offseason brings. Right. And that way, you're elevating his value rather than raising questions about it. And in this particular case, and Adam Gase is coming from Miami, where they didn't pay any running backs big dollars. And Joe Douglas is coming from Philadelphia, where they didn't pay any running backs big dollars. And these are the men that inherited Le'Veon Bell. But they could have, Adam Gase could have struck a different tone in answering the question rather than the one that he did.
Well said. Joe Douglas, widely respected throughout the league, but this is going to be a huge offseason to see what he can do with gangrene. Another non-playoff team, the Jags, they finished the season 6-10. Doug Marrone's 22-28 in 3 years, and he was asked yesterday if he's concerned about his job.
Am I disappointed? Obviously. Am I concerned? Yes, you're always concerned when you have a disappointing season. But for this moment, when I leave here, after I'm done answering, the questions, which I really appreciate, everyone has been great all year, I might have a little bit more than one beer. Thank you.
A lot of honesty from Phillip Rivers, Doug Marrone, all over the place today. So
the end of the season brings that out in men.
No question about it. It's been a long ride. What's the latest for him?
He is scheduled to meet with Jaguars ownership tomorrow morning in Jacksonville. This is a meeting that has been on the books for over the last week. The Jaguars ownership is planning to think ahead and discuss the future and hear his ideas. Again, last week, Diana Rossini, our ESPN reporter, reported that Doug Marrone would be out after the season. We'll see what that meeting brings. Again, I think the owners are thinking of bringing him back, but Diana said he won't be back. We'll see how that meeting shakes out.
Think about this. Less than 2 years ago, the Jags were in New England with a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter of the AFC title game, that close from the Super Bowl.